What is something that creationists, Christians, Muslims, Scientologists, and feminists have in common? They all have the same pattern of shifting strategies. First, they attempt to propagate their ideas in the open market. When every claim they make is utterly eviscerated,
dude, if we did evolve from apes, there would be an overabundance of fossilized evidence of transitional forms of species. So far, zilch.
Yeah, zilch. Apart from these. And these.
They immediately employ various methods of censorship, usually accomplished with simple acts of immediate lifetime ban of anyone who commits the unforgivable sin of disagreeing. But that's never enough, because those rebuttals are still out there, and like all good ideas, they continue to be heard. They gain a growing following, and they hamper the propagation of bad ideas and false assertions to the point of bringing ridicule. That's when censorship becomes much more proactive. As we've seen, it frequently takes the form of removing the offending content via service provider or even legal actions.
I've been suspended. I've received 4 fraudulent DMCA notices.
Now, I'm making this video to tell you to subscribe to my new account, as my old one has just been suspended for 2 weeks.
That in UK you cannot show a simple drawing as that. With Mohammed
here at Sky News, we've chosen not to show that cover, so we would appreciate Caroline not showing that. I do apologise.
I mean, I think it's typical of Islamic schools and the political Islamic movement to label any criticism a sort of prejudice and thereby racism, thereby trying to make people silent on criticizing it.
Harassment is threats of violence, but it's also the day-to-day grind of you're a liar, you suck, you know, making all of these hate videos to attack us on a regular basis, and the mobs that come from those hate videos, etc.
But there is another form of censorship that I find to be worse in some ways than abusing a legal system or a user agreement to silence your way to census.
I'm angry that I'm expected to accept online harassment as the price of being a woman with an opinion.
Yes, if you cannot get them on a bogus copyright claim, accuse them of harassment. It works great. You might get the service provider to take it down, you might shame them into silence, but that's not the best part, no. Silencing your critics is just not good enough, because you can't silence them all. Intelligent people do not stand for lies and injustice. So, what is the best part of retorting with, "You're a bigot," or "Stop harassing me," or "Look at all this persecution"?
They have no love in them. They have no love in them, so all the science and whatever gibberish you wanna spout at me, you don't have any love in you. You have no love in you. So it's all worthless.
That's it. That's what makes it so appealing. I don't have to disprove any of your statements or respond with any facts or sources, because you're just a big meanie. Let's back up for a minute. The reason I made this video is related to a video I made in July 2015. I refuted the ridiculous assertions and strawmen made by YouTube user Joshua Hink. I made sure to make Joshua aware of my video, and he did watch it and respond to it. I also received responses from users who mostly just restated the same arguments I debunked in the video without providing any new evidence, simply demonstrating their own bias and incredulity, before running away as soon as I turned their arguments against them. The last post I received was by YouTube user The Rational Christian, stating that making this video addressing Josh is akin to cyberbullying and calling me an online oppressor. Okay, I am sure most of you who are watching this have your faces firmly planted in your hands, but what is cyberbullying, and could it apply to situations like these? According to stopbullying.gov, cyberbullying is the act of sending threats, insults, harassment, or rumors via social media or text messaging. This can be conducted via embarrassing pictures, videos, or fake profiles. I did make a video, so check. Did I threaten Josh? Nope. Did I insult him? Well, the tone of the video was not particularly friendly, but I never used any ad hominem attacks, name-calling, or criticisms that I could not defend with evidence, so nope. Did I harass Josh or spread rumors about him? Definitely nope. Why would I want to do those things? What good would it do? My goal was attempting to encourage Josh, however unlikely, to evaluate his beliefs. He didn't. I have no desire to attack an individual. It's useless. I attack ideas. I debunk bullshit. And far from being an online oppressor, my favorite responses are from people with opposing viewpoints, so comments and responses are never censored. My video fails completely to fit the definition of cyberbullying. The only reason the rational Christian would accuse me of such things is to lower me on a personal level and declare himself the victor by default, all while completely avoiding having to respond to anything I actually said. It is cheap emotional blackmail and a cowardly non-argument.
Do we know that they're not Islamic extremists or criminals or whatever? It's just, I'm getting fed up.
Do the children who you see on your television screens look like Islamic extremists to you?
The fact is, Josh put his ideas online, out there, in the open marketplace of ideas, leaving him open to fair criticism. And criticism he received. But I have used insults in the past, and I doubt I will avoid using them. In 2009, I made several videos about a creationist named Dr. Mark Surtees, or as I like to call him, Dr. False Dichotomy. And yes, I was not always subtle about my disdain for the man. He is one of the worst creationists I have ever met. Yes, Benefing X is an idiot, but he was always just an uneducated and dishonest kid, unable to contain his own ego. Ken Ham and Ray Comfort are lying, money-grubbing scam artists, but they never earned any scientific credentials. Dr. Mark Surtees, and he is a real doctor, did. If there is one thing I learned in my time earning my computer engineering bachelor's of science degree, it is the importance of proper research and citation. So when Surtees says something like,
and as the hydrogen is used up, it actually gets hotter rather than colder, surprisingly enough. There's no problem there. It's basically because of the physics of the sun. Don't ask me to go into it, I'm a biologist.
He has no reason not to research this. I could as a college sophomore, which I did.
And I'm neither a biologist nor an astronomer, but I can still take a moment to give a simple explanation as to why the sun gets hotter as it converts hydrogen to helium. Our star is powered by protons fusing in the helium nuclei inside its core. This fusion is caused by gravitational pressure. As this process continues, there are less and less free particles available for fusion, which causes the core of the sun to shrink. The more the core shrinks, the more pressure exists within the core. The increased pressure increases the rate of hydrogen fusion, thereby increasing the temperature and luminosity. There, that wasn't too hard. Now, continue.
And despite explicitly stating that he does not have any understanding of solar physics, he goes on to say things like,
so the sun is going to last for about another 5 billion years, so don't worry too much. So it's about 4.5 to 5 billion years old, if the evolutionary story is correct. Which means about half the hydrogen in the sun is now being used up and it's been converted into helium, which gives...
So I responded,
Ugh, you're a moron. Half the sun is now helium? Apparently this guy does not understand the convection of our sun either. Stars can only fuse hydrogen in their cores because that is where temperature and pressure are high enough. Low-mass red dwarf stars have very deep convection zones which replenish the core with hydrogen from the outer layers. This is part of the reason they last so long. Larger stars like our sun have shallow convection zones, so their cores are never replenished. Most of the hydrogen of our sun will never undergo fusion. The correct makeup of our sun is 74% hydrogen, 24% helium, and 2% other elements. This is largely unchanged since the beginning of our solar system.
he is a scientist, a real biologist who has education and experience.
If the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, the Earth would have been a block of ice.
He could easily have researched and understood why his statements are wrong.
So the average life of a comet is only several thousand years.
But he chooses not to do so.
So we have a problem if you have an old solar system. Where do all the comets come from? And the alternative hypothesis is, well, actually, the comets aren't that old, so therefore there's still plenty of them left.
He is willing to lie in his own field with some of the stupidest arguments anyone can use.
It's an interesting question to ask is, how long would it take for this Earth to have 6 billion people on it? If you had a population of about 1 to 10 million individuals, which is not very many, which is a fairly conservative estimate, living on this planet for about 100,000 years, you can actually work out how many dead bodies there should be around.
He has no excuse for saying such ridiculous things. This is why Dr. Mark False Dichotomy Surtees and the rest of the tiny minority of scientists who purposely lie to promote their preferred religion deserve more scorn than the loudest of the uneducated ignoramuses. He earned a harsh criticism I levied against him. There is nothing wrong with being ignorant on a topic. Everyone is ignorant on many topics.
Yet this planet, this amazing planet, just so happens to have, 100% of the water in the whole solar system.
I do not mock people simply for being ignorant. The problem occurs when they speak with such brazen assuredness on something they do not understand. The correct manner in which to make a video or a speech is to first learn something about the topic and then present your ideas.
And if we came from apes, why are there still apes?
Why are you still an ape?
If you decide to go about it the other way...
Remember folks, if you're going to misrepresent scientific data to support your claims, if you're going to quote other people as if they support your ridiculous ideas when in fact they don't, and if you try to ridicule your critics when you can't even get their username right or you confuse one with another, if you're going to get excited and act as though you've won when you have ignored every single rebuttal made against you, and if you choose to argue from personal incredulity and use red herrings, ad hominem attacks, absurd arguments and quote mining, you're going to get laughed at repeatedly.
In short, these people earned the derisive comments they receive by acting like fools, making these braying, idiotic arguments, spouting nonsense that retards our society.
So, in a big loud voice, who should you always trust first, God or the scientist? God, and I want you to remember that.
With a smile on your face, you advocate the abandonment of scientific naturalism. How selfish of you, sir. With a tune on your heart, you gleefully point the path back to the Dark Ages and encourage people to follow, promoting a path that leads to needless death and suffering. You are the very epitome of evil.
You deserve it. What about the other side? I have not seen many occurrences of atheists attempting to have creationist responses removed.
Atheists, you guys are supposed to be the arbiters of freedom of speech. You want freedom of speech as long as it's your kind of speech, right? Typical atheist behavior.
Thunderfoot hasn't tried to have Melody Hensley removed from her position. Armored Skeptic, Logic, and even little old me don't feel need to block people at the slightest disagreement. Why not? Are our opponents much kinder than we are? Do they never insult us?
If you say Thunderfoot is a great scientist and supports logic and reason, this is what you support. You support a rape apologist and misogynist. Essentially, just combine everything terrible you can think of in the world.
I'm not going to apologize for making fun of you, even though that's not the intention of my video right now, even though I've been doing a good job. It's just, you make it so easy, man, come on now, but...
These idiots, don't they know that a stone is not going to keep a razor sharp edge? You put it in the ground for 29 or 47,000 years? And these idiots never heard of rain?
Okay, but why don't I care when Nephilim Free calls me an uneducated science denialist goon? Why doesn't Osmeroid care when he calls him...
I want to show you how anti-science, non-scientific, and utterly stupid the average evolutionist, God-denialist atheist on YouTube really is.
Because Nephilim Free is a crazy, uneducated, paper-munching moron.
How come you don't eat your babies?
Why did an Armored Skeptic try to remove Jeranism's video insulting him? Why doesn't Thunderfoot care what Anita Sarkeesian says about him? Or rather, says about him by proxy? Because her arguments are contrived bullshit, and she is a liar without shame. And Jeranism is a conspiracy-obsessed nutjob. None of us care when we are insulted online. We do not need to complain about what people say about us. We can debunk their bullshit and expose them as the fools that they are. And they can't refute anything we say, and that really gets them. I mean, it really stings. And that is why they are desperate to block us, dismiss us, and misrepresent us. The Rational Christian, you seem to me like just another whiny ideologue trying to weasel out of taking responsibility for your statements by playing the victim. Go ahead, hide behind your martyrdom, run away from ever having to reevaluate your position. How pathetic.
You want anything goes except what he has to say or what somebody like me has to say. So if Christians speak up, then you want to silence our speech.
Somebody call the ambulance.